I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, 2 IDF soldiers are attacked after wandering into the West Bank. Israeli security forces continue keeping a watchful eye on Israel's northern borders. And an Israeli beer startup might just get tapped for tens of millions of dollars. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Some breaking news from the West Bank just now. 2 IDF soldiers, a male and a female, were just attacked by a group of Palestinians in the West Bank after they accidentally wandered into the Palestinian city of Jenin. They've been safely removed with only light injuries, but one of their weapons was apparently stolen during the skirmish. The IDF has just confirmed that the 2 soldiers are serving at a military base nearby, but it still remains unclear as to how or even why the soldiers accidentally entered the city limits. After the attack broke out, local Palestinian security forces stepped in to safely remove the IDF soldiers from the scene. But by then, one of their weapons had apparently already been stolen by one of the attackers. The military is investigating this incident and conducting a full search for the stolen weapon. Well, it's been 48 hours since some of the most intense clashes between Israel and Syria in decades, including the first true open warfare with Iran, but it looks like an eerie calm has returned to Israel. It still remains to be seen whether this is merely the calm before the storm.
אנחנו רגילים לכל האירועים שמדי פעם באים וחולפים. יש איזה מתח, יש אולי איזשהו חרדה, מה הולך להיות, מה יקרה. אבל בסך הכל זה עוד אירוע שעבר, ומקווים שהשקט יחזור.
Anxieties nearly hit a breaking point when an Iranian drone breached Israeli airspace over the weekend, triggering an Israeli counterattack that saw one of the Air Force's F-16 fighters get hit and ultimately crash. The pilot is currently in stable condition and has regained consciousness. Israel retaliated with a large-scale airstrike on multiple Syrian and Iranian targets. At this time, the IDF believes nearly half of Syria's air defenses have been totally wiped out in those strikes.
היום ברור לכולם מה שידענו מלמד. איראן מבקשת לייצר פיקוד קדמי בשטח סוריה שמטרתו פגיעה בישראל. לא ניתן לזה יד. לא נסכן את אזרחי ישראל. לא נאפשר לערער את יציבות האזור כולו.
Despite ratcheting escalation towards a war none of the sides may even want at this time, Prime Minister Netanyahu has reiterated that the army will do whatever it takes to prevent Iranian entrenchment on Israel's doorstep.
אנחנו אתמול נתנו מכות קשות לכוחות איראן וסוריה. הבהרנו בצורה חד משמעית לכולם שכללי הפעולה שלנו לא השתנו במאומה. אנחנו נמשיך לפגוע בכל ניסיון לפגוע בנו ובכל פגיעה בנו. זו הייתה המדיניות שלנו וזאת תישאר המדיניות שלנו. ואני מבקש לומר גם שאני גאה בכם, אזרחי ישראל. אתמול הוכחנו שוב שברגעי מבחן אנחנו יודעים להתלכד כדי להדוף את אויבינו ולשמור על המדינה שלנו.
Saturday's downing of an F-16 marks the first time enemy fire has brought down an Israeli jet since the First Lebanon War in 1982. The craft's 2-man crew ejected at a height of 14,000 feet shortly after an anti-aircraft missile exploded nearby. And fortunately, it looks like everyone is okay. The pilot has just regained consciousness and is now in stable condition.
In a leaked debriefing, the 2-man crew explained their quick thinking that made them decide to eject. The IDF is still officially investigating what truly brought the plane down, although enemy shrapnel is believed to be the culprit. But what is clear is that during the firefight, the aircraft ceased responding. The crew ejected just in time, moments before it crashed into a hill in northern Israel. Security cameras in Israel captured the jet as a fireball during its turbulent crash near Kibbutz Khalduf. The crew has been commended for following the proper protocol during an emergency. Though his face has been blurred for security reasons, the Israeli pilot has just been visited by Israeli President Reuven Rivlin in the hospital.
פעם נוספת גם ראינו את הצוותים שפועלים לאחר אימונים רבים ושהDNA שלהם מדבר בכך שהם דבקים במטרה. לא חוזרים בלי לבצע את המשימה. וזה דבר שאצל המתנגדים ואויבינו הוא דבר חשוב ביותר, שכולם ידעו, לא ניתן לשבש את אורח החיים של מדינתנו ושל אזרחי מדינתנו, ואנחנו לא נעמוד מנגד כאשר מישהו ינסה לשבש, ועל כך מגיעה התודה לכל המערכות הביטחון, וכאן בהזדמנות זאת גם לצוותי האוויר אשר עושים מלאכתם ללא שום איזה שהם פשרות.
Former head of Israeli Air Force Intelligence and chairman of Hashomer HaChadash, Brigadier General Ram Shmueli, is joining us now in the studio to discuss this weekend's escalation in the north. Thanks for joining us.
Hi.
So Israel has deployed Iron Domes all across the north in the last 24 hours. Why do you think that they're doing that? And does it mean that we should expect more events in the coming days?
No, those are measurements that you have to do to be prepared in case of something of escalation of this kind of confrontation, even though I don't believe that it's going to happen. Nevertheless, you have to be prepared, like they have been prepared in this Saturday when there was a penetration of this drone. So I've been in those positions. I've been in alert at 3 o'clock in the morning and how to take off at 3:30 in the morning to intercept the drone. I've been in a position of attacking site batteries, and then one of our airplanes was hit down back in 1982, and how the squadron
So you've seen this with your own eyes?
I've seen this.
Well, my question is, do you think, I mean, first of all, the question is if this was intentional in the first place, but why did Iran decide to test Israel by sending a drone right now, or was it a mistake?
No, I don't believe, I don't know what the Iranians meant to do. The only things that I know, I see the notions and the process of the Iranian penetrating from Tehran through Baghdad to Syria. They are penetrating to Syria. They are building their infrastructure, and those targets of Iranian infrastructure that we finally attack in Saturday, they've been there. We monitor them.
And I mean, can we assume that that was bound to happen? Because Israel has been saying that, the country will not allow Iran to create a front, obviously, right here on Israel's borders. Do you think that every time Israel strikes targets in Syria from now on, we're going to see an immediate response by Iranian proxies?
Maybe they've done a mistake. They sent this drone, and this was a kind of an excuse for us to write down the red lines of Israel, as that we said, for many months.
So you say an excuse Israel was looking for, in other words?
I don't know if Israel was looking for, but Israel was very clear-cut about what we are going to do. And this is when Prime Minister went to Putin a couple of weeks ago, he told him the same thing. We are not going to allow the Iranian to be on the front line with Israel. And they are coming with their drones, with accurate rockets, and the Air Force is very prepared to attack those targets.
Now, reports suggest that Iran has asked Hamas to start a front on Israel's southern border as well. Do you think that that is going to happen?
The Iranians are involved every place in the Middle East, even in Hamas, even in northern Sinai, in Yemen, and of course in Syria and Iraq. And they maneuver all those fronts in favor of their own interests. So if there is a tension in the north, okay, let's do something in the south. So probably you are right about your assumption. Not that I know, but I think this is a good assumption, what's happened.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. A possible war may be brewing on Israel's northern front, but it looks like Prime Minister Netanyahu is facing a personal political war here at home. Police are expected to file their recommendations to the Attorney General this week to indict Netanyahu for 2 corruption cases, but that will only happen after the High Court hears a petition against publishing the recommendations. ILTV's Aaron Porras is here with the story. So, Aaron, why are the police waiting right now?
So again, the Attorney General Mandelblit has asked the police to hold on to filing their findings and their recommendation to the public until after this court case basically will review on whether or not they'll be allowed to reveal and publicize their recommendation at all. At the very least, though, it'll delay the publication of their recommendation for a few days.
Now, again, I just want to remind our viewers, these recommendations are about cases 1,000 and 2,000, which are for bribery, fraud, breach of trust. Breach of trust, yes. But back to the topic of the PI that Netanyahu allegedly contacted. We spoke the other day about how Netanyahu was accused of trying to smear the police. What is the update there?
So again, Netanyahu is saying, that these are ridiculous insinuations. He's actually turned the accusations back into the police, saying that they're trying to, organize a coup against him. But then the police are now, throwing it back, saying again that Netanyahu hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on them and subvert the investigations, which they've actually now named a suspect as Walter Soriano, and now the Internal Affairs Committee from the Knesset is looking into that very seriously as well.
All right, thanks for joining us for the update. The Israeli Foreign Ministry has just announced that no Israelis were on board a Russian commercial plane that just crashed on Sunday afternoon. 71 people were tragically killed in what unfortunately is yet another aviation disaster for Russia.
The plane crashed just minutes after taking off from Moscow, and sadly there were no survivors. The flight was operated by Saratov Airlines and was destined for the Russian city of Omsk. The cause of the crash remains unclear, and investigators are working to try and piece together what happened, although some analysts suggest the crash was due to heavy snowfall. Israel was quick to check if any Israelis were on board because over 1 million Russians currently live in the Jewish state, many of which often travel within Russia and use local airlines such as Saratov. Russia and other countries from the former Soviet Union have seen over 40 plane crashes since just 1990. So despite the fact that 2017 marked the world's best year ever for aviation safety, history indicated a fair chance that the next major accident would involve a Russian airline. That history doesn't seem to be deterring Israelis, however, since many take advantage of cheaper Russian flight options when traveling abroad.
Ever wondered who makes those cool bulletproof doors that protect embassies all over the world? Well, we're happy to welcome to the studio Inbal Shaked, the national sales coordinator of the Israeli company Superlock. Thank you so much for joining us. Now tell us about what makes your doors unique compared to other companies. I see you have some gadgets on the table here.
Well, basically, this is the system that most Israeli security doors use.
Okay.
Okay. This is the standard, what the law requires.
Okay.
And this is our system. These are our locks. As you can see, they're wider, they're deeper, going deeper into the wall, meaning they give you higher security. It's harder to break them, basically.
And here in Israel, obviously, there's much more of a need for these types of security doors. Can you tell us kind of where are you implementing these doors in the first place internationally? What are the main things that you're trying to stop?
Well, first of all, the main difference is that Israel, as you said yourself, there's much more need for security doors than in other states because of terror and because people here need to feel more secure. We are much more aware to security.
So typically, your lock system is used more for government buildings abroad, or
no? This is actually the standard security system that you would find in almost every home in Israel.
Right.
We do have much more special security systems that you can find in embassies, that you can find in places like Colombia, like Russia, people who have much more to
But the interesting thing here is that, as a normal person, if I wanted to, secure my door with this type of lock, I could do that.
Exactly. In Israel, what I'm saying is exactly. In Israel, the standard house in Israel would be much more secure
than the standard house in
anywhere else. Yes.
Interesting. So, and again, I can imagine this is a lot more secure, but what are also kind of the upgrades to your typical door?
Well, I think the main specialty that we have is that we actually customize and personalize security doors to a decorative security doors. So you can choose yourself. You can say, okay, I want it to be bulletproof, or I don't have any crazy neighbors. I just want it to be, a break so that no one can break it, for thieves. I also can have it, but I also want it decorated. I want it to have, stripes. I want to have a window inside.
To look like a normal door. Very interesting.
Exactly. So it can look normal. It's decorative, but it's also very, very secure.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us and telling us about these doors.
Thank you.
All right, on the heels of a controversial new law limiting free speech on the Holocaust, Poland has now moved to vote on yet another bill that is being criticized by many as anti-Semitic. This new legislation would severely restrict kosher meat exports from Poland to both Europe and Israel and potentially get rid of the practice of kosher meat slaughter altogether.
This actually isn't the first time that Poland has moved to ban the ritual slaughter of animals, but this time it may truly stick. Supporters in Poland say this is merely an animal rights bill designed to protect animals used in the meat industry. The language prohibits the slaughtering of animals when they are in a, quote, unnatural state, like if they're not standing up, for example. This, of course, clashes completely with Jewish kashrut law, which prohibits unnecessary pain on the animal by applying pressure on the knife used to do the slaughter. That's something that can't be done if the animal is standing up. While some argue that the kosher rituals for slaughter are cruel, many say otherwise and that this law completely restricts freedom of religion. Furthermore, if passed, the export of kosher meat from Poland would also be severely limited, impacting Jewish communities all over Europe and here in Israel, where Polish meat is heavily imported. Even before this bill was announced, Israel's Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee had been mobilizing to demand Israel's ambassador leave Poland, all in response to the new law that forbids Nazi death camps in Poland from being referred to as, quote, Polish death camps. While Education Minister Naftali Bennett says that the high school trips to visit Holocaust sites in Poland will continue despite the law, Israeli outrage towards Poland continues to deepen. On that note, it may be worth pointing out that the son of a Holocaust survivor from Auschwitz was just named the next president of Harvard. I wonder what he thinks of Poland's new legislation.
All right, Israel's French embassy has just announced that it will boycott the opening ceremony of the Israeli Film Festival in Paris because of plans to screen Foxtrot as its opener. The Israeli film won critical acclaim abroad, snagging the Silver Lion at the Venice Film Festival and making it to the shortlist for this year's Foreign Film Oscar. Israel's culture minister Miri Regev, however, is denouncing the film for its depiction of IDF soldiers. ILTV's Brett Allen Smith is here. And Brett, is it any coincidence that Regev is in Paris right now?
I would say probably not a coincidence, no. The culture minister has been lobbying hard for the foreign ministry to actually withdraw its support from funding the Paris Israeli Film Festival altogether. And after repeated requests from the government to swap the film out for a less controversial film fell through.
Now, I understand that as of today, Miri Regev still hasn't seen the film, am I right?
Correct, no. By her own admission, no, she has not.
Well, and have you seen Foxtrot?
I have. Yes.
So what is your take on this then, as a film guy? Because I haven't seen it myself.
Okay, so look, film is subjective. So for me, this sequence in Foxtrot that's igniting all this controversy, all this hate from an Israeli leader, in my opinion, it's pretty overblown. I mean, is the scene critical of the IDF? Sure. I mean, yes, I think you can say that. But Israel's a country that calls itself the only democracy in the Middle East. And frankly, that sort of self-reflection through art, that criticism from a director who also served Israel in war, by the way, that's not something you want to jeopardize.
Now, it's, similar to President Rivlin's position on Foxtrot, too, but something interesting here is that there have been many Israeli films just as controversial as Foxtrot, if not more so, but typically you don't see reactions like this from government leaders.
No, I think you're totally right. I mean, just to name one, Waltz of Bashir, which that's an animated doc hybrid about an Israeli conduct during the '82 Lebanon War. I mean, that film is fiercely critical of the IDF. But Waltz of Bashir actually played this same film festival a few years back, and there was zero backlash then.
Well, film, of course, is its own sort of foreign diplomacy. On one hand, Israeli stories making their way to world audiences is helpful, and it's so important. But on the other hand, there's always that risk of propaganda if it's completely unchecked.
Sure. I mean, I will say that the film world is a community, and let's not forget a business as well. It's a pretty huge one, actually. Venice, Berlin, Cannes, the biggest festivals in the world, all have major Israeli benefactors, sometimes even direct ties to the Israeli government. I mean, the Berlin Film Festival, for example, they're literally about to give an award to the executive director of the Israeli Film Fund this week when the festival kicks off. So for Regev to demand kind of this global boycott of one film while kind of facilitating deals for the others at the same time,
Right, I mean, it could come back to hurt Israel's film industry in general, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. All right, thanks for joining us, Brett.
Thanks, Natasha.
All right, being a student can be overwhelming. There's a lot to balance. I mean, just trying to find time to feed yourself between all of the studying can be a hard task to accomplish. Well, joining us now are Dan Lichtenfeld and Shachaf Ben Yakir, who have a solution with their new platform, My Campus. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Good evening.
All right, so what does your platform do?
So basically, our vision is to create small communities around campuses and colleges. We do that by building an operating system for the campus, for the community. We use 3 pillars. Basically, first, we we make the academic information more accessible for the students. The social life of the student, we make it more personalized and tailor-made for the student life. And on top of that, we build the wallet abilities to offer many services such as printing, event tickets. We can offer
textbooks.
Yeah, even that, courses.
Right. So this is essentially like an organizer of sorts, but a one-stop shop where you literally have everything that you would do in your campus life in this one kind of platform.
That's what happens.
Interesting. Right. So how did you guys come up with this idea?
Well, actually, students from the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya came up with the idea. After they saw that their own campus wasn't offering digital services that were up to par. And there were a bunch of...
This is a startup nation, right? It's
yeah,
Israel.
Exactly. So they approached me. I have a company that does projects in the digital space. And they came up with the idea, and I really liked the idea, and I decided to invest in it and basically create a
very cool
startup around it.
So is this platform available now internationally, or where can we find it?
Okay.
So basically today we're working with 2 campuses already, the IDC in Bar Ilan. We're already building and developing 3 more campuses to come this year. I guess that we currently have around 30,000 students. Until the end of 2018, we're planning to go up to 150,000 students.
Well, I guess the good news is that there are a lot of campuses. I think there are over 3,000 in the United States, something like that, right?
70,000, actually.
70,000?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Really?
Around 20 million students in the United States.
In the United States?
Yes.
Only. Okay, I got that statistic completely wrong, but it doesn't matter. The bottom line is that more business for you guys.
Of course.
All right, guys, thank you both so much for coming in, and good luck.
Thank you.
All right, if you haven't had the chance to visit Eilat, Israel's southernmost resort city, well, now there is a new reason to check it out. A new ecological beach is about to be built near the town's dolphin reef, and ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is here with some more details.
Thanks, Natasha. Well, while the dolphin reef itself has been a major tourist attraction for the past few years, there's been a 200-meter long stretch of shoreline right nearby that hasn't been taken advantage of. Now, the Eilat municipality has just taken over it, and they have big plans. They are set to transform and develop the old pier, which was formerly used for transporting oil, into an ecological beach with an environmental education center.
So what can we expect to see here other than the educational center?
Well, the main goal of the renovation is to make it an environmental tourist attraction, complete with a marine garden, wind chimes, and natural climbing structures. This is actually the second eco beach to be built. Just last year, the 300-meter-long Kaza Beach was developed, and it's been proven to be very popular with beachgoers.
Well, I've been wanting to visit Eilat recently. I used to go down there almost every month, so now it looks like this might be the right time to take the trip. Definitely. Thanks for joining us, Emmanuel.
Thanks.
All right, what is your poison? Budweiser, Corona, or a smooth Stella? Well, you probably already know this, but all of those brews and more come from the Anheuser-Busch InBev, the largest brewery in the world. And now it looks like they're buying an Israeli startup to help keep all that beer flowing. I hope that gets you excited because I don't really like beer myself.
With offices in Tel Aviv, Manhattan, and London, the Israeli-born Weissbierger startup creates a digital bridge between beers, the bars that serve them, the breweries that make them, and yes, the people who drink them. The startup's customized beverage analytics hub connects directly to the tap, monitoring exactly how much beer gets pumped out of the nozzle during a given day. Those analytics are measured in an integrated smart system app. All the data is then organized to give users a living, breathing understanding of what beers are selling like hotcakes and which ones just are taking up space. The idea has just snagged the startup a rumored buyout of tens of millions of dollars. Anheuser-Busch InBev clearly thinks the technology is worth every penny, especially since it can also be used to monitor sanitation and temperature. So the next time you wonder how that Corona stays so frosty or how that Stella stays so pristine, you might just have good old Israeli innovation to thanks. That and your local bartender, of course.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. An Israeli app is about to help the makers of Budweiser, Corona, and Stella stay as fresh as can be. So today's word is barman, which is how you say bartender in Hebrew. There is nothing more frustrating than being at a bar with friends and not being able to get the attention of the barman or bartender. Once the barman finally comes to your attention, you suddenly aren't thirsty anymore. But at the same time, when you're having a really bad day, the barman actually notices and offers to listen to your problems. One thing is for sure, though, a barman can be a lifesaver, so don't forget to tip the barman. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The winter heat wave is ongoing, but you can expect a drop in temperatures as rain showers will begin during the evening. The low tonight should be about 54 or 12 degrees Celsius, and the high tomorrow will be around 62 or 17 degrees. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.52 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.